Joining me for more insight on all of this is Shuja Nawaz. He is the director of the South Asia Center at the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. This is the first time that such a senior general has faced these kinds of charges. What does this symbolize about what's happening there in Pakistan? Can we read a lot into this or not?
Well, it is symbolically quite important, although technically it's the second time that a former army chief has been brought to court. The first one was brought to court on charges of contempt in 1993 and actually was convicted, but the charge was never implemented. The conviction was never put into effect. So General Pervez Musharraf is making history of sorts, not the kind that he wanted to when he went back to Pakistan in March this year.
Well, let's talk about that, because here's a man who really has had such a fall from grace. I mean, he was the leader of the country. He goes into exile. He's in London and Dubai. He could have remained out of the country. He returns almost with this sense that he's going to be embraced by the people, and instead he's arrested. Talk to me a little bit about that. What kind of a mindset did he have? Because people did warn him of this, didn't they?
A lot of people warned him against going back, but there were a lot of other people around him to whom he listened much more, who told him that he would get a hero's welcome and that his newly formed party had formed a base throughout the country and that he could actually win an election. This obviously didn't turn out to be the case. When he went back to Karachi in March, only 500 people showed up at the airport. Most of them were journalists.
The Bhutto assassination happened in 2007. Your sense is there's not much of a case here in terms of evidence and that sort of thing. Give me your thought pattern on that.
Well, quite literally, the evidence was washed away within hours of the assassination. Reportedly, on the advice of the Director General Military Intelligence, a Major General who is related to Musharraf, and Musharraf at that time, of course, was the Army Chief and the President. The civilian authorities washed down the road. They also washed the vehicle in which Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto was killed. And so there was no physical evidence worthwhile that was collected. Also, we have to remember that within 24 hours, the Pakistani military spokesman of the Ministry of Interior, a retired brigadier, said that they'd solved the crime, that they knew who had done it. Baitullah Masood was fingered as the culprit, and they also talked of having a tape of him conversing with a cleric, and they said they'd identified his voice through voice prints. So as far as they were concerned, the matter was solved. The blame had been shifted to the Tehreek-e-Taliban of Pakistan.
Well, you know, it's interesting because Musharraf says, these are the three words he threw out, that this is false, fabricated, fictitious. But even if he were to escape these charges, there are additional charges he's facing, correct?
Yes, he is, and that's what's kept him under house arrest. He has many charges against him. Even the charges now, there are three different elements, and they deal with the murder. They also deal with fabrication of evidence. They deal with stopping the investigation and so on. Most of these appear to be based on very circumstantial evidence. And the history of Pakistan in such cases and in such trials is not very salutary. Most of these cases basically fade away. If they take a long time, this particular case could be explosive in one way, because it may end up embroiling the former head of the ISI, General Pasha, as well as General Kiani, the current army chief, because he'll be retiring in November. And if the trial is still going on, he may well be asked to come and testify.
Well, we will definitely keep our eyes on it, and we'll probably have you back at that point in time. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Certainly.